Okay. We're in Simon Kufman base. We're on Sif Zion. It says as follows. Oval, someone who has to show him an oval. Now, when he says an oval, so that could mean different things. That could mean an oval, there's different zmanim of avelus. Usually, if someone, the first zman of avelus is Shiva. Then, depending on who passed away, so there's two periods. If it's not a parent, so then it's only Shloshim. After Shloshim, the avelus is over. If it's a parent, then it's Yud Beis Chodesh, it's 12 months. So now he says as follows: Ha'ovel, someone who's an oval, afil tech shiva, even if he's in the shiva, about to give us an oval that's in tech shloshim, and then it's over. Or about to give us someone that's a whole year, is chayev matanos lev yoinim begam l'shleich manos re'el. He has to still fulfill the mitzvah of l'shleich manos matanos lev yoinim. And also Suda, also do that also. Mikomakom la'yishal davar shel simcha. Shouldn't send davar shel simcha means something that many people, when they receive shalchmanas, they say, "Hey, he's a cheapskate." You know, they look at the shalchmanas, and many people, you know, sometimes it's a fancy shalchmanas, you know, or especially if we're talking about giving a davar Michael, let's say it's a fancy piece of meat or what, you know, that's expensive, you know. So that means you shouldn't say a davar shel simcha. Avul b'tanavu, ein shochin monos kol shnei masa chodesh. You can't send him kol shnei masa chodesh. Afil davar she'ein shel simcha, because by him, there's no difference, a lot of simcha and a little simcha. Every monos is a little bit of a simcha. There's always you receive something, you know, you're thankful for it. Immu ani, if he's an Ottoman, mutter l'shleich mois, oishal davar she'ein shel simcha. Then he can send him, even though he gets money, it's the same thing, but it's not the same thing as a chayfetz, that's a choshev or chayfetz. Now, what you could do in such a case is, that's all geret gevoren, you're sending directly to the oval. But if you say Moshe, let's say, people put in a card in the shalchmanos, and they say Moshe from family so-and-so to family so-and-so. So you're sending to the family, really. You're not sending to him. Direct, you send to him, that's where the shaila comes in. If it's a city where there's...
You do from family to family, who's yoitzer with that shalach manas?
Well, the family, the whole family.
Oh, everybody's been stuck in one shalach manas like that?
She says, if it's a small town and there's no Yidden living over there, just as him and like people that live out on in the hills, you know, so then you have to send to him. You have no other choice. I mean, that's the only thing that you have. Okay. Now we'll go to the next symbol.
That's the difference in Matanos and Yoinim. Matanos, then you can put it away. But the Mashlach ones you must send that day.
Right. Ein lases melacha b'Purim. You're not supposed to work on Purim. Umisha oiseh by melacha, someone that doesn't obey and he works on Purim. Ein roya ma'oiseh melacha siman bracha l'olam. So from that melacha that he made or what he earned, it's not going to go for good things. By Yidei Goy, mutter, through a Goy, it's mutter to do malacha. Umuta lasak b'prakmatya. Prakmatya means like business, let's say, let's say stock market. You want to buy a stock, sell a stock, there's no malach over there. You make a call to your broker. Over here, so malacha means mamash working. Mamash working. Chayin muta lichtig afila igera shalom. You gotta write a letter of shalom. How are you? What's doing? You want to report to somebody. V'chein chayvaisav, and if you want to make a list of your chayvas that you owe, that's pasha. It's important. On one hand, it's not a simcha, and on the other hand,
unless the people are using it.
And on the other hand, you want to remember, you want to pay your chayvas. There are people that still have a minute to pay. There's I once said in Pirkei Avos, steht Yehi mama chavecha chava v'lecha k'shalach. So some people teach it with pashtus. The Yehi mama chavecha chava k'shalach. Okay. But there's a different teich. I once teiched this teich. There was people once sitting in shul with Michal Maidav, and it wasn't like our shul where we have a shir between Michal Maidav. So people were sitting around and talking. What do people begin to talk about? Well, they begin to talk about a certain gevir, how rich the gevir is. One said the gevir has 1 million. One said, what you're talking about? You couldn't buy it for 10 million. And the Taitan said, you have no asagas. It goes into millions. So the Zaida was sitting at the table, and he hears the conversation. And he said, oh, by the way, you're talking about this and this kavir. Maybe you could tell me how many children he has. So one of the people from the conversation says, why are you bothering me how many children he has? Well, it's not my business how many children he has. He said, I don't understand. When you have a child, if it's a boy, you make a bris. The whole town knows about it. If it's a girl, you make a kiddush, Shabbos and shul. Everyone knows about it. So that you don't know. Money, you hide your money. No one publicizes his money. And that punkt, you know punkt how much. One knows it so much, and one knows it so much. I don't understand. So the taich is, that just like you don't like people to talk about your money, don't talk about other people's money. Okay. But to do an inyan of a mitzvah, if it's a tzarech Purim, mutter lasses a fila malachas gemudas. You got to make a fila malachas gemudas. And this din in Shulchan Aruch is a very interesting Yerushalmi. There's a Mishnah in Megillah that the Mishnah says as follows. In the beginning of the second Pedic, it says, Hoya Kaisra. If someone was reading a Megillah, I'm Purim, if he's writing a Megillah, and Darsha, or he is darshaning about the Megillah, in other words, he's writing, and then later he darshans, and then he continues writing, Umagia, and he was checking the Megillah. Im kivan liba yotza. If he had in mind to be yotza with this, the kriyas of Megillah, is v'im lav lo yotza. And no, it's not yotza. In other words, if B'shasi writes the Megillah, and B'shasi Sefer writes, he also says the word that he's writing. Many Sefer hold like a Sefer in front of them, and they look in the Sefer, and they say the word, and they write. So if he had kavanah that should be his reading of the Megillah, he's Yosef. Comes again to Yerushalmi, and the Shalmi says, from here's a raya, that you got to do Malach on Purim. If you talk about writing a Megillah and having a zinin, then you're talking about Purim. So why do we say that you shouldn't do Malacha on Purim? You see a lot of... So Pashtus, if you can answer me. Maybe we're talking over here a person that it was a Tzarech Mitzvah. He didn't have a Megillah. He probably didn't have a Megillah. We just learned now in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that Yetzer. But it's a little bit difficult to say that that's what the Mishnah means, such a case. The Mishnah says that someone who was writing a Megillah. So there's a kasha that Mephoshim ask on this. There's a Rashi in Tainus. They had Tanaisim when it didn't rain. They used to be guys of Tainus on the tzibur, and there were different levels of Tainus. There were Tainus that was only during the day, and there's sometimes when it got very serious, a real drought. There was no water at all for a long time, and it was endangering the crop, so they would make a tanis that would start from the night before, like we have Tisha B'Av, a tanis. So there's a shayla, l'mashal on Tisha B'Av, or a tanis that you make for another, or a tanis that they made over there. You're not supposed to. It was also been malacha. The Gemara says it was also been malacha, but Rashi over here says in tanis, like Rashi, that the din of Issa malacha, where the tainus started from at night, is only during the day, but not at night. So today they ask a kasha on the Yerushalmi, what's the raya from our Mishnah? That you're allowed to work on Tisha B'Av, medavtachain in the Megillah at night, and again in the morning. Maybe we're talking about someone that wrote the Megillah at night. And Ribaldi wrote the Megillah at night. There's no Issa Malacha at night. The Issa Malacha is only, and we know that all the dinim of Purim. We learned in Shulchan Aruch, we learned that sending Shalach Manas. If you send Shalach Manas at night, you come home from Megillah at night and you send Shalach Manas, you're not Yaitzer. If you eat a Suda at night, you're not Yaitzer. Why? Because they say you may Mishta V'Simcha. So Ribaldi said you may Mishta V'Simcha. It only applies to the day. If that's the case, so do it at night, you're allowed to work. If at night you're allowed to work, at night, so that's why the Mishnah says that, not we're talking about there's no Megillah in town, or someone has no Megillah, he has no place where to go to hear Megillah. It's not Mistava to say that's what the Mishnah is talking about. Mistava is that the Mishnah means at night is Mutter V'Melacha. But maybe if somebody wants to make a Megillah and he wants to write, he's going to write a whole Megillah during the night. It's not an easy thing. I mean, that Sefer will tell you. I mean, I'm not a Sefer, but I understand it wouldn't be an easy thing. But it seems like this person was writing the Megillah at night. So there's a Gevaldik Chiddush that they say the Kasha is a Rogatch of a Kasha. The Sofnas Paneach is this Kasha. So there's a teretz as follows, and this is a very interesting chiddush. We learned in the Gemara in Megillah, I forgot who it was, which Tana it was, that darshan that you're supposed to read the Megillah at night and again during the day, because the pasuk Akai Erko Laila Yom V'Laila. There's a pasuk that we darshan from the Kapitel Tilim that talks about Esther. So they want to say, now let's say, let me go a step further. We learned in the beginning of Masechta Megillah, we learned that the Megillah is not dafka read on Yudala, on Purim. You can read the Megillah in the Kras, you can read the Megillah on Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, and Yud Dalet. Why did they make that provision that you could read the Megillah earlier? It was in order because the people from the villages, the farmers from the villages came into town. So in order that they should not have to come another time, so they made that when they come into town, they could read the Megillah. or that they should be free on Purim, not to be busy selling the food to the people and delivering the food, but they should, they'll read the Megillah a few days before. When do people come into town? The people from the villages. When did they come into town? They woke up in the morning and they made a trip to town, right? What about the Megillah from at night? So they want to say that the whole din of learning the Megillah at night and again during the day, that was at the Takana Bisman HaGemara. But Bisman HaMishnah, they only read the Megillah during the day and not at night. And therefore the people from the villages, they weren't there at night. And so when did they read the Megillah? They read the Megillah when they came in the morning. So this Yerushalmi is based on the Mishnah. This din that way I just read now, the Hoya Kaisva, and he was having Im Kivim Liba Yotza, is talking about at night. At night is Mutter B'Melachim. So that's what the Yerushalmi is saying, that the din of Issa Malacha is only during the day, but not at night. So stimmt es the Mishnah, Bizman HaMishnah, stimmt der Reihe that it's Mutter B'Melacha at night, and therefore if he was writing the Megillah and he was Mechaven and everything, so he is Yaitzer. Okay, let's... Okay, let's just finish over here this one. Yom Chamish also ba'odah nikah tzayna Shushan Purim. We call the Shushan Purim. Ein eimer b'tachton, v'oi kelel chapayim, v'oi gam ratzeach, what we say before you take out the Torah, if it's on Monday or Thursday. But also, gam ken v'hesper v'tainis, v'noigem b'ktsas mishte b'simcha. Abu ein eimer ala nisim, we don't say ala nisim, umatarim lasses by Nisuyim, you got to make weddings. Purim, there's a shaila if you got to make weddings. Some say it's a shaila from Eima Av and Simcha B'Simcha, and some say that it only applies to Purim day. But Purim at night is not so much Simcha. There's different opinions about that. Making Kiri She'eino N'Kaylim by Esa Megillah. Avo B'Yem She'Kaylim Esa Megillah. Mashal in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, she'oz ikar hasimcha is ein eisa by Nisuim, mishum de'emav, and simcha b'simcha. Yema ba'osar, b'chamish osar she'ba'od ha'rishan, gam ken ein eimen b'hem loy tachton, v'loy kelech apayim, v'loy gam natzeach, v'asura b'hesper tainis, v'yema ba'osar, that means Purim cotton, which was a month ago, is Ma'bim Tzas Besuda. And the Shulchan Aruch Eirech Chaim ends with this din and brings the pasuk with Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. So I once said, it's not my fault, I once said that the Shulchan Aruch begins with Tamid and ends with the word Tamid. The Shulchan Aruch begins with Shivisi Hashem L'negdi Samid and ends with Toiv Leiv Mishta Tamid. And that's connected the Shnei Tamidim, the Chol Yoim that they had in the Beis HaMikdash, a Tamid Shal Shachas and a Tamid Shal Bein Abayim.